Hello everyone, welcome back to the show. In today's video, I'll be recapping how I came joint first with one of my friends at the Isle of Wight 2026 tournament. Now in this video, I'm going to be going through round by round, just recapping every single thing that happened. And stay tuned because there are some very funny stories. For example, I got one of my fellow competitors disqualified, and me and Ben in the final round played each other, and we were just absolutely just wetting ourselves with laughter. But I'll get into that as we go through the tournament. The tournament itself, I'll give a brief overview on the setting and stuff, but I'll also give more of a heavy recap at the end. But it was on the Isle of Wight, which is, if you don't know, a very small island at the bottom of the UK. You've got to cross like a little, the Solent, I believe it's called. So you've got to get on a ferry. It's kind of expensive to get there, but once you're on there, because it's during February, it's kind of cheap because it's very much like a holiday destination and everywhere's obviously not busy for the holiday. So in that aspect, it was quite good. However, it was during February half term, so it was a bit more busy than you'd think. But my two friends that I went with, they're both just unemployed, so obviously that didn't matter for them. I unfortunately or fortunately am employed, so I had to take time off during the half term. That was fine. If you're going next year or whenever, they also have a weekend tournament, so if you don't take time off, etc., it's pretty good. Although do be careful about the ferry, because on the Friday the ferry broke or something. They got something caught in the propeller, and it meant that everyone trying to get there on the Friday missed their first game because they couldn't make it. Now, I went to this tournament with two of my friends, Ryan and Ben, who I'd met at my university chess club. Ben was seed number 1 in this tournament, it being the under 2100s tournament, and I was, I think, seed 11 or 12 or something, and Ryan was, I think, seed 4 or 5. Ryan is very, very strong at opening positions, and he's even made his own chessable opening course in the Sicilian. So he's very, very sharp, and as we'll see going through, he was very, very helpful in our preparation for each round and just helping us both, me and Ben, just go through what openings we wanted to play and sort of sharpen up and specifically prepare for a specific opponent. And then there was me, who I was just looking to improve, basically. I've been going through Bobby Fischer's memorable games, as you've seen on this channel, game by game. I've been posting an analysis. But also recently, by myself, I've been going through positional play, as it's no secret I'm a very attacking, dynamic player, and I've been trying to sort of shore up some of these holes in my game going through this book, and I sort of wanted to see how it'd help me. And, well, yeah, I had very high expectations of myself going into this tournament, and I mean, we'll see. As it turned out, I played this tournament really, really well. Aside from my one loss, which was still 87% accuracy, the rest of my games had 93%, 97%, 93%, 96%, 93%, and finally 96%. The computer evaluation graphs tell a story of just complete dominance for every game, apart from obviously the game I lost and the game I drew. But I'm very proud of how I've played and the improvement that I've made in such a short period of time. Going into game 1, I'm already going to get in some excuses early. We'd been travelling all day and I was the designated driver. So I was already a bit tired, and to be honest, I went into the game just not locked in at all. I sort of sat down thinking, I'm just going to steamroll my opponent. Like, no matter what I play, I'm just going to get into a chess position and then just win it from there. And as you'll see in this game, that was just the complete wrong mentality. I started this tournament completely on the wrong foot. You know, the saying, start off strong. Well, I started off weak. Yeah, so I mean, let's just get into the game. My opponent, I'm black here. My opponent, this like 12-year-old Asian kid. Not really what you want to be seeing round 1 as your opponent. Normally you just want some older guy, you know, just classic chess. But here he chooses a sharp option, and I go for the Bogo Indian, which I don't really know why I went for this. I probably should have just gone for something a bit easier. But he comes here bishop d2, and now this is something that genuinely I had no idea what I was doing already. I've only recently started playing the Nimzo, and I really should not have played this, to be honest. I've since been looking at A6 here, and I think I much prefer it because here, for example, after something like this, which is what happened in the game, my opponent is now threatening e4. And really the only way for me to stop this is what I played, d5. And I just do not like these positions here with just the pawns on d4 and d5. I never have in my almost 20 years of playing chess. But anyway, we kept going. Both sides just developing normally, really. And here I played g6, basically just trying to get my bishop out. This is all completely fine. And here, maybe the first mistake, I take with the knight because, I mean, the knight just looks more active. Again, I'm not that familiar in these kind of positions, which is just coming to my detriment in this whole game. But basically the knight here looks good, but what's just better is taking with the pawn and saying, okay, if I come bishop here, this bishop's going to be blocked in, but my bishop's not going to develop this way. My bishop's going to be much more active this way now that the pawn on e6 is gone, and this pawn, instead of facilitating this bishop, it's just going to facilitate a c5 push, where after just a sample line like this, something like this is just a bit active for both sides, and this is just a different chess game. But crucially, I've sort of prevented e4 here, and also I've prevented, not prevented, I'm looking to play c5. Whereas what happened in the game, knight takes, my opponent plays a3 as a prophylaxis, sort of restricting my pieces, and I continue my plan here of bishop b7. I was debating bishop a6, trading off his good bishop, and again, I probably should have gone for it. But in my mind, again, I was like, I just want to keep pieces on and then eventually just win the game, because I was still thinking I'm just way better than this guy. Which just isn't the mentality you should have going into a chess game. I mean, yes, you should be thinking I can win every chess game, but you shouldn't be thinking, oh, I'm just going to play whatever moves and then win. No, you need to think. You need to actually sit there and prove that you're better. But anyway, my opponent castles, and I get my knight into the game. I develop it this way specifically to facilitate c5, the c5 push. And when my opponent here goes queen c2, he's obviously threatening h7. And here I just make a mistake. The whole point of my opening here is that I'm trying to play c5. If I can't play c5, then I'm just worse, because this pawn is just going to become a target. And so here I should have gone either h6 to obviously prevent this, or I should have gone knight on d5 back to f6 to protect this pawn. Instead, what I do, I'm just thinking, oh, I need to develop my pieces, completely forgetting that the whole point of this knight here was to prepare this c5 push. And now, after a few more moves, my opponent just clamps down here on c5, and I'm forced after h6 to basically free up this knight from its one defensive job, to then just drop back this knight. And now my opponent is able to plonk a piece here on c6 and just completely prevent me from playing c5. Now, again, I make another mistake. I just need to try and get c5 in at all costs. But I'd seen the move here, knight e7, which A, looks a bit depressing, but aesthetics isn't everything in chess. It's the practicality behind the moves. And this basically just kicks the queen, and then next move I'm playing c5. However, what I'd calculated was that here, queen b7, and after c5, I can't take because of a bunch of stuff like this. And here I thought that basically I can't take this way, so this bishop just drops back like here or something. And after this and this, I basically evaluated this position as me being much worse, because this is going to drop, and to be honest, this was just a big mistake in calculation and evaluation. I just completely misevaluated this position. Yeah, just a big mistake for me, really. But also, I missed this this little Zwischenzug, where I thought he could come here and pick up this knight. Well, I've just got rook c7, and that just deflects the queen, and now, again, I can just take here, and that's completely fine. So that was just a complete mistake on my behalf, and instead of going knight e7, which again I calculated that line and thought I couldn't play it, I played knight b8. Again, it's got the same purpose, apart from now this just removes my knight from this square again, and now it's just not prepping c5. And so basically, now the difference is that I can't play c5 in this position because I don't have a knight here to help. So instead I go h6 and say, okay, I'm going to be a pawn down, but at least, you know, I've traded my bad knight and your queen's kind of offside, and now again I can just sort of try and get into the game. And here is where I needed to play c5. Again, yes, I might be a pawn down at the end of this variation. However, I had this nice little tactic at the end where it doesn't actually matter. Yes, I'm a pawn down, but these pawns are sort of a little bit mangled, and I can just end up picking them off. I sort of maybe missed that tactic. I don't even really remember. I was just not in a very, like, chess mood, I'll be honest. Instead, I was just like, okay, I'm just going to get my pieces out. And this is already just a bad mistake. Yeah, and so my opponent just drops his queen back, just reconsolidating at the center. And I try and get my pieces in, but my opponent just playing, he was playing very, very well, to be fair to him. Trying to trade queens. I probably should have traded queens here just to give myself a little bit more space. But I don't want to, because again, I'm still in the mood of, if I can break out, then the queens are on the board, and I should be able to at least get a little bit of counterplay. Whereas really, I should just be trying to limit, damage limitation here. But alas, and I think here I can even come like this, and then here, and then pick up this pawn, maybe trade it for this pawn, and it might be able to, I might be able to hold for the draw there. It's unclear, but anyway, my opponent just shuts that idea down here with b5, and to be honest, here it just gets a bit depressing. He just completely blockades with his knight, and then just starts pushing and attacking. And here, I was just embarrassed at this point. I was like, what is going on? Like, my opponent's got all the space. His knight is just completely cramping me here. This rook is out the game. This queen, all of my pieces basically are just out the game. Oh, and then, yeah, so my opponent just slowly pushes, and he has a very nice finish here with f6. And I tried to sack an exchange for a little bit of play here, but my opponent, again, very nice finish. Queen h7, and yeah, just after this, I resign in this position because there's nothing I can really do to stop either of these two moves, which would be checkmate. Yeah, just not at it at all, to be honest, but I sort of took that loss and just realised I need to just play much better. And we'll see in game 3, I play a d4 again. I just do not play this opening because I realise it is just not for me. So, yeah, anyway, on to game 2. Now, this was played the next morning, so I'd had all night to rest. And I'd seen that my opponent, so I pretty much always play e4, and my opponent plays the Sicilian, and in all my games online, I play the Mora. And yeah, this is probably what I would have played, although she does play the Khan Sicilian, which is an opening that I play myself. And after something like this, we just get position. So as I play this for black, I would probably know the sharpest way to play against this as white. But I thought instead, so I've learned the Trompowsky opening instead as well. So I thought instead, let's just get her out of book, play the Trompowsky. It's fairly theory light on my end. And it just completely worked. She spent, on this position, I kid you not, 15 minutes in move 2. She was completely out of prep here. And yeah, even if I was like, I get a slightly bad position here, I must be better just simply because, psychologically, she's already tanked so hard on the clock. And so she plays d5, which is probably the most solid move here. And I take, and she plays g takes, which is less solid. It's much more fighting. She's looking to try and strike out in the center here. But I managed to strike out first with c5. I'm still in my prep, and here again she takes another 10-15 minutes. So she's already down over 30 minutes on the clock here. And she ends up taking, which just isn't that good a move, because I can play e3 here, not e5, because e5 sort of weakens this pawn here on d4. I play e3 because I want to basically just take back this pawn. She plays c5 herself. Now I take back, and she isolates my queen's pawn. And yes, this pawn may look a little bit weak, but I mean, these pawns are completely weak, and at least my king here has a bit of safety. Her king, you don't really want to be casting queenside onto this open file, and you don't want to be casting kingside onto this open file. So her king is just a complete weakness here, and I must be better in some kind of way already. Yes, she's got the two bishops, but she's going to need to activate them quickly for them to be able to matter here. And again, I've just got a huge lead in development. I've got a huge lead in space, so that should matter for something. So here we see I'm just developing both my pieces, and here she makes probably another mistake. She trades. She should probably just start developing her pieces like this, trying to get the bishop out, or even this way, just castle. Instead she trades, and I've just got a huge lead in development again. Her king's still in the center, and I've managed to castle. I'm just going to bring these rooks to the middle of the board and, yeah, just win. Here, I thought I could maybe play queen b3. I spent a bit of time on this move, basically double attacking this and this. And after e6, what I saw was that this was kind of just not that great for me, because now these two are being forked. What I didn't see, however, was I could just drop the queen back, and she can't actually take here because of this nice little move. And well, she's kind of got to move the king here, because if she comes here, she just loses the rook. So if she moves the king, and I can just regain my piece. And now this just has to be better for me, right? Instead, well, I didn't see that move. So instead, I just go castles. Can't really go wrong here, and I go rook e1. Now I'd seen her follow up of bishop b4, which just attacks my rook. And what I'd calculated was I could come knight c6, and after this, after she takes this pawn because it's hanging, I thought I could play this very nice rook sack and come queen here, but it just doesn't work in the end. I basically forgot that there was a knight here on d4 that just defends this. So in the end, I didn't go for that. I just moved the rook back. I spent about 20 minutes, so we're a bit more even on time now. And she sort of smiled a little bit as I played it, being like, haha, you had to move your rook back. But I knew that this position was fine, because again, I'd spent 20 minutes on it. And I was like, okay, I've had to move my rook back, but your king is still in the center of the board. Your bishop's, okay, it's preventing my rook coming here, but it's still not really where you want it. You kind of want it like back here even, or even here, just being a bit more solid. And yeah, what I probably should have played instead of rook e1 was probably rook c1, just lining up here, because she probably wants to play b5 at some point. And now if she plays b5, I have tempo on her knight here because it's undefended. Yeah, and she's probably not got something like this because I've got this nice little rook lift, and now this rook's just very nicely placed and coming into the position. But anyway, so after bishop b4, rook f1, now she plays b4, I drop back. She obviously can't take this because of takes, and I win her queen here, and this queen is just dead. So instead, she comes queen d5, just activating her pieces. I activate mine, and now she comes king d7, because as I mentioned previously, yeah, her king's not safe on either side of the board, so she just hides it here behind these central pawns. I develop my knight. Excuse me. Again, she can't take here, because I've got this move here, and after takes, I regain the piece, and her king's stuck in the center. My rook's come into the position. This is just bad for her. And yeah, so she comes back, and now I come queen f3. She develops this rook, and that allows just a little tactic here. Just allows me to trade some pieces off. And here I probably should have gone for an immediate d5, But I was slightly worried about this move, where after, yeah, I mean, my knight's just being attacked, basically. But, I mean, this isn't too much of an issue, but, I mean, I didn't really want to allow it. So, first, I just bring my other piece into the game, and now, after this rook comes here, I go for the weakness. So she's got a very, very weak structure around her king, and her king's in the middle of the board. So basically, I want to try and just open up that king. And so I force this pawn to be pushed, and now I just sacrifice our pawn here in the center of the board, but this is just going to absolutely just dismantle her position. And so she takes. I hadn't really calculated anything here. I'd just seen that it was probably good for me. I'd seen that after queen check, she probably has to come maybe this way, and I didn't really know what I was going to play. Probably something like queen here, just trying to get into the position a little bit. I'm not too sure, but as it happened in this position, she just blundered a tactic here. She played rook king d7, which if you're playing along at home, there's a nice little tactic on the board here. Let's see if you can find it. The move is rook takes d5, and basically the idea is if takes, which is what happened in the game, I've got this nice fork which just picks up the queen for a rook and a piece. So this is what happened. Also, a key detail is that this queen covers any back rank ideas from this rook, so that's very nice as well. And yeah, I mean, from here I'm basically just completely winning, but of course I've still got to convert it. So first I give my king a little bit of space, and then just kick this rook, because it's kind of annoying. I can't attack it, it's being defended. But also I'm just placing my piece, my pawns here on the light squares, just so this bishop can't attack it. And then I get my king out of a pin here, because that, in some lines that could be quite annoying. And then basically I just start pushing this pawn here on the h-file, because I realise I probably need some kind of way into the position, and if I can just create another weakness here on h7, she's going to be forced to protect it if I just start attacking it. And that's basically what I do. I bring my queen into the position, and now it's just over. There's a nice little detail here where she brings this bishop here to e5, and basically the idea is if now I come queen g7, she can play f5, and it's just annoying because this bishop defends, it attacks the queen. I can't draw arrows, no, not that loses. It attacks the queen, but also defends the rook. So now it's still completely winning, but I've probably just got to start coming on the queen side here. So instead I play a nice little intermezzo, kick the bishop, and now I come here, and she can't come here because the bishop's just undefended. And so in, I believe, this position, she just resigned. So that was a very nice game. On to game 3. I'm now on 1 out of 2 after a very disappointing loss. I've come back with a very strong win. Nice bit of preparation from me as well there. All round, very nice. So here my opponent plays d4, and here I get a chance to redeem myself by not playing the Nimzo. Here I'm just playing the Dutch. It's an opening I'm very, very familiar with, and I'd seen that my opponent plays his bishop g5 lines very, very sharp, but he'd lost every single game in this opening. There is a very sharp move here with h6, where essentially the idea is that after something like this, there are ideas here like this, and you can't take because that's just checkmate. So I didn't go for this because those lines, you sort of have to know what you're doing. Whereas g6, this is just sort of what I play online. It's a much more solid way to play, and basically here I'm just going for space. If this bishop comes in, I can probably play just d5, shut that bishop off, or even b5, play it a little bit like a Pirtz defense. So my opponent just develops, and I'm developing as well. And here he plays h5, and I think what he thought he could play after h6, my response, was hg. And after something like this, so we spent a while calculating this, both of us. And after something like this, the queen comes into the position, I've got to blockade, and he takes this pawn here. And this looks quite scary. He sacrificed a piece for 2 pawns. But in actuality, I just come e6, defending here. And in actuality, he's just a piece down, basically. Yes, this pawn looks scary, but it is just kind of weak, and I can end up just castling, and this just has to be better for me. There's little compensation here for just the whole piece, and you know, my king's safe. I'm probably winning this pawn back. It's blockaded, and my pieces, okay, they're a little bit passive, but maybe soon I can start breaking out and using that extra piece that I have. So instead of taking, he just retreats his bishop back. And here I just grab the space and develop my pieces, and he plays this very strange move, f3. He had to really be playing, you know, more aggressive, more just developing principled moves. I thought back here maybe he would play e4 himself, maybe back here. Instead of this, maybe e4, break open the position while, you know, maybe I've been fannying around a little bit. But that didn't happen. And so here I take this as my chance to break open the center and just gain a bit of space here. He comes queen here. I think he was just trying to, you know, control the c4 square. But in practice, again, this was blocks in his pieces. I think much better was just queen d2. This, you know, after castles long, creates a battery on the d file, and again allows him to develop more of his pieces. I castle, he castles, and now I play b5. This completely restricts his bishop, and you'll notice here that most of his pieces don't have anywhere to go. Like, in fact, all of his pieces have nowhere to go. And I just have a complete clamp on this position right now. So he tries to strike out in the center. I just completely close off the king side, and now in my head I'm just thinking there's no way he can win this game because my king is just completely safe here, and I'm just gonna start pushing these pawns on the queen side. And that's exactly what happens. So he drops his bishop back, I finish my development, and again here I realize he's got no squares for any of his pieces. Right, this bishop completely blocked in. It might as well just be a pawn. In fact, a pawn would be better because he can at least make this break here on d4. This knight has absolutely no squares. Quite hilariously, they've all either got his pieces on or they're controlled by one of my pieces. Same with this bishop, no squares. This knight, okay, it can come here, but what's it going to do there? And even in the back of my mind, I was always thinking I can always even just pick up this pawn if need be. But obviously, that's not my main goal here. I'm going for the kill. So he drops his queen back to try and give himself a square. But in actuality, it's just, again, way too slow. And basically, my plan here is just to push these pawns up the board. And I'm just going to say he plays maybe a slow move like this. Yeah, I'm just coming into the position. And this is just horrible for him. Stuff like queen here, and it's just checkmate. There's nothing he can do. So yeah, that's just not good for him. So that's, I think, why he took here. But in actuality, again, this just opens up the position. This just gets rid of my pawns in front of his king and just opens up lines to his king for my rook. And also gets rid of one of his pieces. And the tactics are in my favour because my position is just so much better. This is something that Jakob Agard mentions in his book. If you're positionally better, if your pieces are on better squares, the tactics will always be in your favour. And that's just the case here. I'm attacking this knight, I'm attacking this pawn. So he's got to defend it. So he goes knight e2 to c3. But again, I'm just bringing all my pieces into the attack. I've even got ideas of dropping this bishop back and coming in this way. He tries to activate his rook to create some threats here, but I just calmly drop it back and renew this threat here, just taking here and just completely crushing. So he drops his knight back because it was being attacked, and the final move of the game, calmly sliding my queen over to b4, attacking the rook, attacking this, also attacking this because it's pinned. And here he just resigns. He'd seen enough. So that was just a very nice sort of positional cramping game. My opponent, maybe he assisted me with, you know, sort of nothing moves such as f3 and queen e2. But still, you've got to be in it to win it. It was a very nice game from me. Now, something very, very interesting happened during this game. Me and my opponent, you know, sort of a few moves into this game, we heard like a little noise, and we started like looking at each other and like looking over to our opponents. And next to us, there was this little kid playing, and he was being so annoying. Like, he was coughing, like, you know, the classic, like, tongue out cough that kids do for some reason. He would, like, talk to himself. He'd be like, oh, no, 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 no. And which obviously very off-putting when you're trying to calculate next to him. But we could hear this, like, what it sounded like was a YouTube video being played through headphones. Obviously, in a chess game, not only are you not allowed your phone, you're not allowed any electronic devices. So at first, me and my opponent are like, okay, whatever. We're just sort of looking at each other going, that's a bit weird. But it persists, and it keeps on going for very, very long, and it gets to the point where neither of us can really concentrate on the game. So we both go over to the arbiter and sort of say, look, there's that we can hear like a noise coming through headphones, or someone's still got their phone on them next to us. So they call the head arbiter over from the Masters tournament, and he comes with a metal detector, like a little wand thing. And he comes over, pauses their game, says, you two need to come with me. And then in the back, in like basically we're in a big sports hall, and in sort of one of the side rooms, we see them both getting just like wanded with this metal detector. And then after a little while, we can see that they're like emptying their pockets, and this kid obviously has his phone on him and some headphones, and he has to forfeit the game. So basically, me and my opponent had basically forced this kid to just forfeit the game and be disqualified. Which, okay, maybe I felt a bit bad, but he was super annoying. Like, I actually can't even like explain how off-putting he was. And also, everyone knows when you play an over-the-board game, you're not allowed your phone. There have been so many cheating scandals over the years, and they tell you before every single game, you're not allowed your phone. Make sure it's on silent. Make sure it's turned off and face down and under the chair and all this stuff. So in reality, yeah, and it was not only off-putting me and my opponent, it was off-putting everyone else that was, you know, near us as well. And the arbiter afterwards comes up to me and goes, like very cryptically, like, thank you for your information. And I felt like I was in like some kind of spy film. It was like, and then afterwards I was talking to him. And he was like, oh, it's so exciting, you know, being a chess arbiter. You know, it's not that exciting a lot of the time. You just sat there, and this is the first time it's ever happened. And I've been playing chess for like 20 years, and when I was a junior, I remember him arbitering a lot of the tournaments. So, you know, in like 15 years of him arbitering, he'd never had anything like that. So, you know, it was very exciting for him. So, you know, you're welcome, I suppose. On to round 4. Now, this game was very, very interesting as well, because in this game, my opponent, we'd seen that he plays this kind of like bad opening. He had like quite a few games, and he'd also played it during this tournament, where he played this opening, and after this, which is called the pterodactyl, because there's this line here where you're a pawn up as white, but you've got these tripled pawns. But he didn't play that. He plays this opening, and he played this in this tournament, and he previously had a lot of games in this line as well, where I'd seen that this specific move order is very, very good here for white, with ideas of coming in this way, and you've got pressure here on c7. And it was actually Ryan, who I mentioned at the start, very, very just an encyclopedia of opening prep, and he recommended I play this line, and I had a look on ChessBase and on the Lichess openings, and this just has a very, very good score here for white. I'm looking here and it says out of 68 games, black has a 70% win rate. White, sorry, has a 70% win rate, and there's a 24% draw rate, and the win rate for black is so small it doesn't even show the percentage. So this is just completely crushing. So I'd prep this. He's got a series of only moves. So knight here was an only move. E6 here is an only move. And after b4, going to sacrifice this rook. He can't take because these dark squares here are just way, way, way too weak. And yeah, this is just very bad. I mean, obviously as well, I'm attacking his queen, so he can't even do that. But after this drops back, knight c3, calmly dropping back and basically just coming back into this position. I think the only move he had here was knight c7, and in this position we've just got a chess game. I'm probably gonna just bring my rook here, start just pushing these pawns, just develop simply. But as it happened, he played queen e7, and I just knew that this was a bad move. So I was sort of looking, why is this bad? And in my prep, I'd seen this move prop up a few times, so I played it. And he tries to just castle his king quickly. However, this just allows me to hop in on d6 because I was able to just take that knight with tempo, so he had to recapture, and now just hopping in here, which now forces him to move his king. Now he's not going to be able to castle for the rest of the game. And here there are some kind of annoying lines where his knight can maybe take here on b4 and kind of harass my position, or even drop back here on c7, and this bishop's not doing anything, so I just decide I'm just going to take that, and he's left with two very horrible bishops just on the edge of the board. Neither of them can really move, and I'm left with what me and my friends were joking as the knight pair. You know, you've heard of the bishop pair, but hey, this knight pair is just stuck in the position right now. And so I'm hopping in, and basically there are just I'm just gonna be crushing him. Here I calculated if something like this, I'd probably just even come here and again just sacrifice the exchange, and this is just completely crushing. Say he comes this way. I don't even know what I'd have played here. Maybe something like this, just trying to come into the position this way. Threaten moves like this, and just again absolutely crush my opponent here. So my opponent comes queen g5, looking for a little bit of counterplay, and I come here, just threaten checkmate, and yeah, there's not too much else. So he plays f5, looking to sort of just prevent that, and now he is threatening ideas like queen d2, trying to pick up this knight. So I just play rook d1, just to sort of shore up the position, not allow any of this, and also in a lot of lines here, just protect this knight. What I'd calculated was if e takes f, so now I'm attacking this. Now if this, I calculated this very, very long line here, where at the end he had bishop b7, and this is just equal now. You know, this knight's probably dropping, and all of a sudden this bishop's kind of nice, and his king's strangely safe here on c7. So in the end, I just come here, not allow any of this nonsense of this queen coming in, and also in some lines, maybe I've got, say, I don't know, say he comes here. No, say he comes here, for example. Maybe I've got something like this, and now this this rook comes into the position, and again, this is just completely crushing. In some lines, I mean, this is almost checkmate in this position. So that would be very nice. Anyway, here after this, he just comes here because I guess he didn't want me forking these two pieces, but this is just too slow and allows my queen into the game after this, and now I'm just an exchange up. And here, after something like this, I come this way, and he drops back here. I missed a very nice ending to the game. I wish I'd played this. This would have been very, very nice. Just something like this, and just exchanging here. And then this. This is obviously just completely winning. This is something I missed, but the way the game turned out was also just completely fine. So instead of that, I instead just play h4, just looking to, again, trade queens. And after this, we trade queens, and we trade pieces. And here, it looks a bit scary, but basically, again, similar to game 2, where I just end up pushing the h-pawn. I'm just going to push these pawns, create a threat. And, okay, it looks a bit scary. He gets his rook into the position. But in the end, I've got this nice little tactic where I promote one pawn, sacrifice a queen, and then the other one just promotes, and I got mate on the board. Again, a very, very nice game, and just a great bit of opening preparation, just completely winning out the opening with this massive, just winning attack. So game 5, again, we had done a bit of preparation, and actually Ben, my friend, had played this opponent as black in round 3. And so what had happened in that game was it was an Alapin, and Ben had prepared this line A6, and it had worked really, really well. So I decided I'm just going to play the exact same thing. In this position, my opponent played bishop d3, whereas in Ben's game, he played this, and the game continued like this, and Ben just got a very nice game with this isolated queen's pawn. So I was ready for a game similar to this, where maybe I'd end up taking here, or he'd take here, and we get sort of an isolated queen's pawn position here for me as black. However, as the game went on, both sides here just developing really, and here I play this because I don't really want his knight jumping in this way to trade off, maybe create a weak pawn here on e6. My opponent here plays kind of a strange move. It's a computer's top choice, but I think practically it's not that great. He plays bishop f5. Now, why is this a strange move? Well, usually in these kind of positions, when the pawn stretches like this, the bishop behind those pawns on the opposite colour of those pawns is normally the best piece in those kind of positions. Think a London system where you've got this kind of pyramid pawn structure, and often it's this bishop here on d3 that's the best piece. This is very similar. Whereas this bishop, it's sort of doing nothing. This is sort of the opposite. So this is the bishop that's on the same colour as this pawn. And so therefore it's not really doing that much. At the moment it's just sat behind a pawn, just protecting it. So he trades off his good bishop for my bad bishop, which I happily oblige, and just develop, saying, okay, now if you're trying to come after this piece, I've just created a square for it, and also activated my rook. So he activates his rook as well. I activate my queen, and he just drops his queen back because it was sort of offside here on g3 on f5. And in some lines, maybe I could kick this queen and it would have no squares over here, so it would have to drop back anyway. But now I use this, so what I'd prepared for was this isolated queen's pawn. However, here I notice something. Again, this is a bad bishop, and this is a good bishop. And here I want to emphasize that by fixing the pawn structure. So I do this by playing c4, and this not only gains another tempo on the queen, which has to drop back, but now we see that these pawns are on light squares, and I've got a dark squared bishop. And his pawns are on dark squares, and he's got a dark squared bishop. And usually you want your pawns to be on the opposite colour to your bishop, which I have, and my opponent doesn't. So I think structurally, I'm already winning, and strategically, I'm already ahead. And so here, I just start pushing these pawns, and here, my opponent, again, probably makes another mistake. He fixes the pawns on dark squares here. So in pretty much every single endgame, as long as I can keep this dark square bishop, I'm better. Because this bishop can just pick up these pawns, and this bishop can't pick up these pawns because they're on the wrong colour square. And so I'm just very happy here, and I've sort of got a bit of a moment here. And so this is one of those key positions that, again, in positional play, Agard says, you need to look at 3 things in the position. What's my worst place piece? And what's my opponent's worst place piece? In this case, it's this bishop. What are the weaknesses? In this case, here it's sort of these pawns and also these light squares in this camp, because again, he doesn't have a light squared bishop, so he can't shore up these light squares. And so, and then the final one is, what is my opponent's plan? And here, genuinely, I couldn't really see a plan for my opponent. He probably wants to just trade some of the pieces. So my plan is to not trade pieces, but also to try and take advantage of some of these light squares. So my plan here, basically, is that I want to land a knight here on f4, basically to hop in here to d3. And so how do I do that? I do that by coming back here with the knight. And essentially my plan is I'm just going to come knight here and here and support it with this knight here. Very simple, and after a few moves, we see my opponent sort of faffing around here, just trying to get his rooks in the game. My opponent prevents my plan, coming into f4, but now he just weakens his own king side. And so here I develop my queen a little bit more, attack the weakness, and he's got to defend it. very, very strange move, king g2, but sort of forced. And now the plan just changes. I noticed that my opponent, again, similar to game 3, where none of his pieces can actually move. Like this queen, no squares. This knight, no squares. This bishop, no squares. This knight, no squares either. So I can take my time. I can sort of regroup here. So that's sort of what I do. I take the time to probably just double up because, again, my worst piece is probably this rook, so I might as well just try and place it as best as I can. And here, my opponent just trying something. Again, he's got a space disadvantage, so he's just trying to push out a little bit. But I just blockade, come back with the knight. Yes, okay, I've come here and here and here again with my knight. But now this square is weak. And he can't move this anymore because I'm just going to come in this way. So this knight is just going to stay here. And in some lines, there's some tactics here on G3. So my opponent, again, just trying to find some activity for his queen. But I come in here now. And now I realise that he can't really move this because in the game, he moves his knight back. And now I've just got this nice tactic. Where after takes on G3, this bishop just hangs, and now I'm just completely winning. My position's just so much better. I'm just picking off all these pawns. And, I mean, from here, it's just a matter of conversion. Again, he just makes me play it out until mate, which is just annoying. Yeah, I mean, here we are. He tries this weird, like, stalemate trick, but, I mean, after takes, he's always got moves here with his pawn and this knight as well. And I just get checkmate on the board here. Kind of annoyed he didn't go this way, so I could get this checkmate with the knight, but it is what it is. So that's me on 4 out of 5 now. So I've definitely come back very strong after a disappointing loss in round 1. 4 out of 4 from there. Yeah, so here I was white again. This was round 6. And here my opponent, after e4, plays the Pietz defense. And I'm not too confident in these kinds of positions. Like, I've obviously played this quite a bit. But really, I just decided that I wanted to get him out of prep. And again, I'm very familiar with F4, 1F4. I play this quite a bit. I've got a few classical games in this as well. I've scored pretty well with it, to be honest. So I just decided to play this, get him out of prep, and we'll just get a chess game where, again, like I said at the start, I'm pretty confident that if I just get any position, I'm confident in my calculation, in my recent positional play as well, that I should just be able to just be better. And so here we see, after just a few standard developing moves, I've just got much more space. I play this C4 move, sort of controlling key central squares here. I've just got a much better control of the center, really. And so my opponent plays this kind of strange move, rook e8. When your opponent plays strange moves, just play normal developing moves, and then their strange move will prove to be strange, as we'll see in a few moves here. So again, I just strike out in the center. It's probably time. My opponent much less space, so might as well take the space myself. And now he plays e6, and here I was like, this has to be bad. You can't play rook e8 just to play e6. He had to be playing for e5 in this position. So here, again, I've just developed my pieces. Just get my queen into the game, he gets his, get my rook into the game. And again, he plays this very strange move, knight back. So again, you've got to ask yourself, what's my opponent trying to do? Well, I think here he's trying to do two things. First of all, I think he's trying to get rid of this bishop by putting it on maybe a better square here on c6, and just trading it off, or even just improving it slightly. Also, I think he's trying to come in here with his knight. So that second plan, I just stop here, g4, and here you can just see I've just got a massive space advantage here. With all of the pieces on the board, this space advantage is huge because his pieces are just getting in the way of each other, whereas mine have a lot more room to breathe here, and this is just a lovely position. And so he continues with his other plan of trying to trade off his piece, but now, after this trade of pawns, I have a very nice square for my knight, and now he can't trade this bishop anymore, and my knight is very nice. And so I'd seen his next move, and I calculated that it was bad, and yet he played it anyway. He tries to mirror me and hops in with his knight. but I'd seen that after this trade, he takes back with the bishop. I'd encourage you actually to pause the video and again, just find the move that wins here, because it's not necessarily an immediate tactic. It's again a more positional move, which going through this book again has actually really helped. So the move here, knight d7, a very, very nice move. I was originally looking at moves like this, just trying to trade the bishops. And again, something like this is very, very thematic in the bird opening with 1f4, where you get the knight and you come back here to trade off this bishop. However, I was then like, it would be very nice in a position after something like this, for example, after something like this, if I could just land a knight here on f6. And so I was in this position back here thinking, oh, I can just come knight d7. And then after the trade, hop in here, because obviously it's protected by my rook here. So after here, my opponent plays kind of a strange move, but it's interesting to see what would have happened after, for example, rook here, and we get this trade, and this queen gives this check, and back, and something like this, for example. So not only am I an exchange up, but here I can actually have a little bit of a windmill tactic, where I even pick up this bishop instead. And this is just completely crushing. These dark squares, just absolute holes in the position, just completely crushing. And so my opponent goes for a slightly different tactic here. Instead of allowing me to plonk a knight here on f6, as we've seen, that's just game over. He goes for this slightly different plan. He tries to blockade the dark squares by trying to get e5 in. However, this has a slightly different drawback, and that is simply that it just undefends this square here on c5. And so we see after this trade and queen c3, again trying to just hop in with these dark squares. If he comes back, I'm just coming here. He plays e5, and now I just take this pawn here on c5, and very, very just hilariously, this bishop in the middle of the board is trapped. It has absolutely no squares. None of these squares here are safe for this bishop, and it's being attacked. And he can't even come something like this, because rook here, for a start, just wins the queen. So, yeah, he can't be playing something like that. So instead he tries this, which, to be fair, I hadn't seen. The idea being that after takes, he has this move, which opens up the discovered attack on this knight. So he doesn't actually lose material here. However, the drawback is that I can just bring my rook into the position, and now this queen is just absolutely horrible. Originally, I thought he could come here, but after this queen trade, I just get this, and this is just horrible for him. He's got to come something like this. I've got knight here, but I've also got just pawn here, and this is just... He might as well just resign already. Yeah, this pawn is just falling. So instead, he drops his queen back. But again, similar idea. I'm just opening up the position. And after knight takes, because it defends the pawn, apart from the fact that it doesn't because the knight is just pinned, yeah, this is just game over. We get this. And a very nice finish here to the game. Knight d7, can't take because that's just checkmate. And can't take with the queen, because I just take, and you can't take because queen g7 is again just checkmate. So a very nice end to the game, and this actually put me joint first with my friend Ben and one other player who was this unrated Chinese player, which Ben had just drawn against. And so we waited for the pairings to come out, and we'd seen that I was playing Ben on board 1 as black. And it was very interesting, because if the Chinese player, who was also on 5, won his game, then that meant that it was more beneficial, you could say, for me and Ben to have a decisive game, because that meant that we then tied for first. Well, one of us tied for first, and the other one tied for third, and also that meant one of us got free entry to the tournament next year, as coming first in this tournament got you free entry to the Masters tournament, which would otherwise be £200 to enter as an unrated, as an untitled player. However, if that Chinese player didn't win, perhaps it could be better that me and Ben took a Grandmaster draw. Obviously, we didn't want to fix the game. That's probably against some kind of rules. But we just sort of play a game. And so here we are. I mean, there was a photo of me and Ben taken before. So here's that photo of us, smiling. Look at a nice little grin from both of us. But yeah, here's the game. So Ben opens with 1e4, and I play the exact same opening that my opponent played in round 4. And when I tell you we were absolutely creasing, because we both knew objectively that this was a bad opening, because we'd both been there when we were doing our preparation for round 4, and we'd both just seen that this was just a horrible opening for black. However, I'd done my preparation, and after what happened in game 4, something like this, back here, after b4, queen here, and then just knight back, what I'd prepared was what I said earlier, the only move in this position, knight c7. And here we just sort of get a game. Yes, I'm worse, as I mentioned in game 4, but I was pretty confident that Ben just didn't know this position. So the main ideas are just to, develop and like this and just castle and just get a game, basically. And yes, I'm worse, but I know the ideas, and so therefore that's got to count for something. So, and also it's just really funny that we went into this line. So that's why I went for it, basically. As it turned out, though, Ben couldn't remember the exact line of knight d5 here. So instead, he just decided to play fairly solidly. And here, I also just start playing solidly. And yeah, so we basically are just in this position, and we're like, okay, we've got a chess game, now let's fight. We're both out of opening preparation, so we're just going to play whatever. Now here, after this, you might recognise this position as very similar to a Sicilian dragon, and indeed, if Ben was going to play, I think if he was going to play something like this, I'd have dropped back, and then if here, I'd have come here, and this is just a very typical position in the Sicilian dragon. And I'd have been happy to play this. Okay, I might have ended up getting like Yugoslav attacked or something with something like this, but I mean, I've seen a few games in this. I've even got an analysis of a Fischer game where he played Bent Larsen. And okay, Fischer completely bent over Bent Larsen in the Yugoslav attack, but I know some ideas in that opening anyway. As it turned out, though, Ben played b4 because he sort of remembered some of the lines from my game and that I played b4. And so I just dropped my queen back and start developing my pieces. I think a3 from Ben was probably a little bit slow because, again, it just allows me to get this bishop out. This is kind of a bad bishop, and I didn't mind trading it off. And here, we're castled. I'm probably slightly better. He's sort of fannied around a little bit with these pawn moves, and this bishop's kind of nice. Although, as we'll see in the game, he ends up just sort of moving everything off this diagonal. So, yes, this bishop looks nice, but really it's just not hitting anything. So, we have this position. He's clearly trying to play c4. So, I come here, and I don't really want to trade this because this bishop's not doing too much. So, I just solidify my center. Ben plays c4. And now I trade because I get tempo on the queen. The queen has to move. And here I play b6. And essentially I'm just trying to stop c5. But it doesn't exactly stop c5 because after a bunch of trades, he has this move, which, to be fair, I'd missed. I thought originally he had bishop b4, and I had this, where he can't take because his queen just hangs. And then if he moves his queen, say he moves it here, now I can just take this bishop. But instead he comes bishop e3, which is better because after this, he can just defend. And after these moves, here I thought I had a very nice tactic of this, which looks to just pick up this this rook. However, here I saw that he had rook b4, and after a little trade, we have this position, and this is just, I mean, yeah, this is just a known draw. His rook's behind the pawn, he's going to pick up this pawn, and this is just a draw. So instead, back in this position, after takes, the game next to us was favourable. Basically, the Chinese guy didn't win, so it basically just made sense that we drew, and then we'd tie for first on 5.5 out of 7. And so after this position, we just agree a draw because, I mean, there's nothing here for either of us. After something like this, maybe. Yeah, something like this. This is just a draw for both of us. yeah, you can't take. So yeah, I don't know, something like this maybe. And yeah, this is just again just a textbook draw. Yeah. Anyway, he probably wouldn't take that. But yeah. Anyway, that's my analysis of this tournament. The tournament itself, it was run very, very smoothly. There was a blitz thing that we didn't go to, but alas. The island itself, very, very nice island. Nice walks, although in February it was quite muddy. We went along the pier. We just chilled, really. We were doing a lot of chess, so we didn't get time to do too much, but it was quite nice. It was relatively cheap because it's a bit of a holiday destination and no one's really holidaying there in February. So that was very nice. And it was very much just a like me and the boys kind of trip. So I'd very much recommend. It was very nice, and I'm definitely looking to do more big chess tournaments like this in the future. Something else very funny happened during this game. We look over to the game next to us, and the Chinese guy literally has his head in his hands. He's like at the board like this, and me and Ben, because we know that he has to win the game, we just start laughing at each other as well. We have to like get up and just sort of compose ourselves a little bit, because it just looked pretty funny with that guy with his head in his hands. Obviously felt kind of bad for him, but I mean the game it turned out fairly favourable for us, because it meant the game was drawn anyway, but it meant that a draw was actually the favourable result for us, which was very nice, because it means that both me and Ben share first place, we share the prize money, and we also both get free entry next year into the Master Tournament, which is obviously very nice as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this analysis from my games of the Isle of Wight tournament, which again, I came first place, was very, very nice, got a nice bit of prize money, which allows me to buy more chess books. Let's go. But I'll be back next year, considering I get free entry, and yeah, it was just a very, very fun time. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you want to check out my chess coaching, I can make you win chess tournaments just like this one, and yeah, so check that out, top link in the description. Hope you enjoyed, and goodbye. Mwah.